Hello there, Hidden Hermit. And today I'm feeling decidedly cuppy. Cuppy to the power of 7, in fact. I'm going to be looking at the 7 of Cups. Now, 7 of Cups is a fascinating card. Although, you could probably argue that all the cards are fascinating. But I do like this one in that it's got so much depth. There's so much going on in here. Here we have the Waite-Smith. Very evocative image. And a lot of people have got very different opinions as to what this all means. So we have a guy, he's got his back to us, which I think is very, very important, and he's contemplating the 7 of Cups and their contents. There are lots of different views as to what these contents mean, but there are two schools of thought that I quite like. First of all, we have a woman in a cup, and she's blue. A blue woman. Now, a lot of people, or at least some people, think that this pertains to intellect, to scholarly pursuits. We have a veiled figure here. I did read somewhere that this pertains to Jesus. I'm not so sure about that, but passion, enlightenment, a spiritual path is possibly what's going on here. Over here you've got a snake, which may mean wisdom, infinity, or sexual pleasure. Who knows? Who knows? Down here we have a building, and this particular school of thought may suggest that it pertains to home, wishing of a good home. Jewels, I think, is kind of obvious. Money, monetary wealth. The wreath over here kind of relates to power, I suppose. Thinking about Caesar, Romans. So yeah, it's a quest to power. And down here we've got a blue dragon. Again, blue meaning purity. And I think that school of thought kind of suggests that you want to slay the dragon. You want to be the archetypal hero. And that's great. That's an interesting school of thought. There's another school of thought which I also quite like, that suggests that these pertain to tarot cards, tarot trumps specifically, and the 7 archetypal planets, alchemical planets, excuse me. 7 is a very magical number. The 7s are in tarot tend to suggest things like illusion, dreams, and indeed 7's an important number for a lot of people. If you are a footballer and you play for Manchester United or Real Madrid, you want to wear that number 7 shirt, which is a bit weird. And that has nothing to do with tarot. But anyway, so this school of thought suggests that the woman up here is the Empress, and that pertains to Venus. Down here is the High Priestess, which pertains to the Moon. Over here, the snake. The magician usually has a snake around his belt, so that pertains to Mercury. Down here, it's a tower, and it does look like a tower. It's not just any old building, it looks like a tower, which relates to Mars. The wealth pertains to the Wheel of Fortune, which is Jupiter. The wreath is Saturn, the world. And down here, a bit of a stretch. It's suggested that this corresponds to the horse in the sun card. If it was a fire-breathing dragon, I'd probably make that connection a little better. But anyway, so yeah, the 7 of Cups. The 7 of Cups, I think the most popular interpretations of the card when it's on its own are too many choices and hopes and dreams. And I kind of think that's a little bit shallow, to be honest. I think there's so much more depth to this card. And where I drop anchor is it's not the best card in the world to get in a spread, to be honest. So, as usual, I'm going to look at some of the other 7 of Cups in the other decks, and hopefully we'll get a better idea of what the card means when it's on its own. Excuse me. I'm going to drink some water here. I have 4 little decks of cards here. Quite a lot of decks will obviously go with the Waite-Smith images, and so we'll look at those first. This is my knockoff cheap Witches Tarot, and again you have 7 cups with 7 items in them that roughly correspond. There's a building there, there's a butterfly, there's a rainbow, and you've got this wizard who's kind of warning you. He's like, whoa there, stop what you're doing. which is cool because that does kind of tie into how I feel about the card as a whole. Game of Thrones Tarot here is Bran Stark in his trance state. Again, you got some Game of Thronesy correspondences coming out the cups. Again, relating to things like power and courage. There's a dragon. Very cool card. Here is the Mystic Dreamer Tarot. Again, very much the same. Instead of a guy with his, well, you know, the Waitsmith, you assume it's a guy. It could be either, really. Strange haircuts, I don't know. I think the accepted school of thought is a guy, but it doesn't have to be, obviously. In the Mystic Dreamer, it is very much a lady, and she is looking suitably wistful down there. I know I still have light issues, but hopefully you can see that. And she's, yeah, I'd say she's wistful. She doesn't seem too perturbed by the fact that she has these choices. And again, very similar. You've got a winged beast there. You have a woman. You've got a veiled figure. In fact, it pretty much is almost the same, isn't it? Yep, there's a snake. It is exactly the same. Interestingly, you have the moon in the background here. I'll come on to the astrological associations in a bit. Over here, we've got the Dreaming Way Tarot. Again, 7 cups. There's that building. There's that snake. There's that money. Power instead of a crown instead of a wreath. And finally, I've got the Quantum Tarot here, which is a little bit more of a stretch. Now, it's going to be really difficult to see this, but the Quantum Tarot does have a lot of embossed things going on there. The images in the cups, there's a sun, there's the glyph for Saturn, there is Baphomet, there's a butterfly, there's a plutonium symbol. The quantum suggests that this is a red giant star right in the middle there, which is kind of cool because the red giant is an amazing spectacle. It's a huge star, but it is dying, which again is important. So yeah, a lot of the keywords you get from the 7 of Cups. When you think about reversals, I think the line's really blurred with the 7 of Cups. You go through all the books and they're very, very similar, to be honest. So yeah, some of the keywords that come up a lot are things like mystery, possibility, fantasy, imagination. Obviously, this guy is weighing up these imaginative choices. Dreams and daydreams is also very popular keywords. Undecided, too many choices. Although 7 choices, I suppose 7 choices is worse than having 2 choices. Certainly better than having 1 choice, I guess. When you're thinking about the reversals as well, all these words, all these buzzwords comes up like temptation, illusion, deception, delusion, indulgence comes up a lot. Disorganization, which is interesting. Excess will come on to the whole excessive overindulgence aspects of the card pretty soon. What else? Hopes and fears, wishful thinking, sentiment, reflection. I think these ones are quite positive. Reflection, sentiment, desire, will, determination. Yeah. There are so many keywords, and I'm kind of forgetting them all now. This always happens to me. I'm like, make a video, and then I forget everything. But hey. So we've looked at the aping of the Waitsmith images. Let's go on to the pretty decks, as I call them. I'm going to put these over here. We may need those. What we got here? We got the Wild Unknown. The Wild Unknown. Again, we have the moon here, but we also have the sun. It's an interesting, quite evocative image because you have the 7 cups. You don't have things coming out of them as you do with the other ones, but you have the 1 cup that's upside down. Now, if you were to reverse it, now you have 6 cups upside down. And the Wild Unknown is very subtle in the way that it gets the vibe of the card, I guess. You've got the sun and the moon. It's interesting because you could have mountains, or you could have mountains. It's very, very clever. So yeah, even me sitting here looking at this card, I'm kind of musing it, and I'm like, very clever. The Line Strider. Here is the Line Strider. I think this is a cracking card. Absolutely cracking. The Line Strider is a deck that I haven't had for that long. I haven't really sort of bonded it in the classical tarot sense, but every time I get it out, I'm really struck by some of the amazing images. So you've got this woman here. She is, I don't know, she almost looks like she's in some sort of ecstasy. Maybe too much ecstasy, perhaps. And you have these broken shards. Oh, is it a mirror? Is it just glass? But yeah, I love this card. It's very, very cool. Very cool indeed. Okay, the Fountain Tarot again. It's very these guys are very similar, aren't they? You have this woman. Now this woman looks puzzled, perplexed, doesn't she? She's got her 7 cups floating around her, and she's it's a really dumbfounded look, to be honest. I like it. And the Shadowscapes. Now the Shadowscapes, as you may be aware, is a deck that I think probably lends more to the artwork than it does to the correspondences of tarot. However, this is a brilliant card. So you have a male and a female. They're standing on a mountain edge, a la the Fall. You have the towers here, which is interesting. The cups are sort of positioned by their feet, and you have this floating world up here. And the woman's like, "Hey, look, check it out." And the guy's looking at a map. Maybe he's thinking, "Well, I don't know how we get there." So it does look like an unattainable goal to a certain extent, because neither of them have wings or anything that they could ride up there. So yeah, this is a very interesting card from the Shadowscapes. I like it. I'm just going to go back to that Line Strider again. I love it. I love it. This woman, she's, I don't know, she does look a bit perturbed, doesn't she, with her choices. It's interesting that you've got this red palette as well, because a lot of these cards, they go for the blues and the greens. Again, we'll come to why later. But I love that. I love that. Nice line stride. I'm gonna be definitely looking at the line stride in a little more detail quite soon. Okay, so we've done the arty decks. We'll go to the dark decks. Here's the Night Sun. This Night Sun image is brilliant. So this guy, if my camera would like to focus, thank you very much. This guy here he's in some sort of trance state, isn't he? He's in the throes of some dark ecstasy. I just mentioned the colour palette. We've got these dark greens. You got the flowers. He's floating, in fact. He's floating in a pool. He's very much become a slave to this. I would say he's enjoying himself a little bit too much. But obviously I would say that because there are things I want to say. Anyway, the Cosmic Tarot, another deck that's quite new to my collection, and this guy, he's in serious trouble. Look at him. There are things coming out of the cups again. You've got a crown. You've got serpents, although they look more like worms. Yeah, they're worms. Now, interestingly, the 7 of Cups in the Cosmic Tarot corresponds to the 6 of Cups, because this is the image for the 6 of Cups, which is that sort of the vibe of pleasure and nostalgia, if you like. So the way they've carried on that imagery is very, very clever, because the 7 of Cups it's kind of the opposite of the 6 of Cups, I think. But yeah, that guy, he's not happy with his choices, is it? And these cups are sort of, they're in disarray. There's no order there. The Cosmic Tarot is also another deck that I want to look at in more detail. Santa Muerte. Now this is a sort of a curveball card as well. You've got the cups. You've got a guy contemplating them. You've got one of these skeleton dudes contemplating them. Interestingly, you have this heart at the top here, which is almost reminiscent of the 3 of Swords, although there are more swords going into that heart. I count 5. I count 4. I count 5. Yeah, I don't know what that means. I don't know if the 5 of Swords. The 5 of Swords. That's illusion. It's kind of similar, really, isn't it? The 5 of Swords. Well, 5 of Swords defeat. I don't know. Now, the Santa Muerte is a deck that, like the Night Sun, because they're done by the same guy, by Fabio Lestrani, it is a deck that does seem to want to break the mold of established thought for some of the card interpretations. And I believe that in the little book you get with the Santa Muerte, you get the advice from the dead, and for the excuse me, for the 7 of Cups, it's persevere in your projects and your desires, having first thought them through and keeping your feet on the ground. Now, keeping your feet on the ground is a great term to suggest with the. It's quite a positive term for the Seven of Cups as well. A good lesson, I think. Beautiful, beautiful cards. Let's look at the Archeon. Again, the Archeon's another deck that just wants to be like, whatever, I'm going to do my own thing. And you have this woman on a Pegasus or a winged horse. It's got a word, I can't remember it. And the sentence for the Archeon is, a flight of fantasy carries her over her rainbow. Now, it's not an apparent rainbow, it's a sort of a starry scene with the Seven Cups. But again, you're going for that vibe of fantasy. The moon makes another appearance. The moon's popular in a lot of decks. But yeah, the Archeon is a great deck. I love it. The Dark Grimoire is a completely different image. So you've got this guy here. He's chilling out, smoking a pipe. And I have absolutely nothing else to say about that. Deviant Moon. The Deviant Moon is really cool. Because you've got this guy, this double-faced moon guy. He's checking out the Seven of Cups and he's trying to reproduce the image. He's trying to do what he sees on his artist palette there, and failing completely. So he sees something, but he's reproducing something else, which is symbolically very, very clever. I also quite like his easel. There's somebody hidden here holding up his canvas. I don't know what that means, but again, the Seven of Cups from the Deviant Moon is usually creepy, as it always is with the Deviant Moon, but very, very cool. Yeah, so they're the dark decks, and yeah, so a lot of the imagery, apart from the cosmic, a lot of the imagery is very different to the Waitsmith informant, if you like, but still very, very cool. Now, there's a reason why I've left the Hermetic decks to last, because how the Hermeticists, the Kabbalists, Aleister Crowley think about the Seven of Cups is kind of what resonates with me most, and that is not a good one. The Hermetics don't like the Seven of Cups. I'll first start with the Golden Dawn Magical Tarot, and I'll talk about the colour palette again. You got these really dark blues, these dark greens, these cups, and with a lot of imagery you get on on lots of decks. You have the cups overflowing for some reason, because the Suit of Cups is about emotion, it's about feeling, relationships, friendships, interpersonal relationships, and you always get this nice image of cups overflowing, abundance, if you like, which is lovely, but not with the Hermetics. Certain things of note: you are reminded that this card is Venus and Scorpio, and I'll go into that in a moment. And Illusionary Success. Yeah, I'll move on to the Hermetic Tarot, which again, these images are obviously going to be very, very similar. You've got Venus and Scorpio. It gives it its full title, the Lord of Illusionary Success. And the Hermetics, they do kind of make a point of saying that at first it might seem that you're getting somewhere, that you get some success, but unfortunately it's all rubbish. Finally, here's the top deck, and and there's no beating around the bush with this card. So the title here, it doesn't go for Lord of Illusionary Success, it goes for Debauch, which is a word that I love saying. Debauch, I love it. And this card, look at it, it's not happy at all. You have this sort of dripping, this melting vibe going on. The connections between the cups are breaking down. It's an ugly card, to be perfectly fair. An ugly, ugly card. And Crowley did not like the Seven of Cups at all. I'm just going to put these Hermetic decks here so you can see them. So, yeah, and he really liked to focus on the point of mind-altering substances being associated with this card. He himself was a bit of a drug addict. He had a heroin addiction at a couple of points in his life. He also had all sorts of issues with lots of other substances, and he was really much a slave to pleasure. So I don't know if he had a personal relationship with the Seven of Cups, but he really didn't like it. Now the Black Magician, or the Left Hand Path Magician, Lon Milo DeQuette, has written a very in-depth study of the Thoth deck, and he comes to the same conclusions. Well, maybe my conclusions are probably informed by his, but yeah, he even suggests that there's something suicidal about the Seven of Cups, which is really harsh when you think about it. Really harsh. But I think the point I'm trying to make is the Seven of Cups is not just... In fact, it kind of annoys me when people say, oh, you know, it's your hopes and your fantasies. And every single human being has hopes and fantasies. But in this case, in the case of the Seven of Cups, it's not a good thing. Daydreaming is a great way of getting yourself into trouble if you're meant to be focusing on something else, and I think that's the kind of vibe that this card is going for. It's when you become a slave to your hopes, if you like, and they're unrealistic. So yeah, let's talk about the astrological association. So Venus and Scorpio. Now the Hermeticists suggests that Venus doesn't sit well with Scorpio. They're both water signs, or rather Venus is a planet of water and Scorpio is a water sign. So you'd think that correspondence is a good one. However, I'm just going to pull Pixie out here, and the Seven of Cups is waiting nicely. There are cards that are associated with the Seven of Cups. The court card associated is the Knight of Wands. The Knight of Wands is also quite fiery. And again, this is a Golden Dawn association. They assigned court cards to all the other cards, and they all these sort of correspondences, which is what I'm talking about now. That the Tower is associated with Mars, and Mars is associated with Scorpio. Scorpio is associated with death, and the Empress, which I think is probably the most prominent thing when it comes to this card because of Venus. And if you were to look at these cards, you've got water, water, fire, fire, which is interesting. And this is probably the way I remember the interpretation of the Seven of Cups most. Two waters, two fires. When you mix fire and water, you get steam, and steam doesn't last. If we were to look at the cloudy Seven of Cups, I see steam. I see steam. And what is steam? It's just water vapor that's running away from you. You can't catch it. So I kind of like that kind of vibe as well. Okay, right. I'm starting to rabbit on. I'm doing my whole rabbit and on thing. The other association that I like to do with the Seven of Cups is the number 7. And that the Chariot, the Major Trump, is kind of the antithesis, I think, of the Seven of Cups. Because here's a guy who's got two choices, been pulled in two separate directions, but he can handle it. There's no problem for him whatsoever. It's not important, but it is interesting, I think. So yeah, we've looked at all these lovely cards. I haven't really been paying attention to what I've been doing, so I hope you've been able to see the cards a little bit. When the Seven of Cups comes up in readings, I think it's a good exercise when you're thinking about a single card. Let's just pull the Seven of Cups out. I've put them away, haven't I? Oh, there you are. So yeah, when you're trying to contemplate a single card, I think it's a good idea to go through the deck and just sort of associate them. And I did prepare a few cards, but I've forgotten what I was going to say about them. But say, for example, you get the Seven of Cups and the Fool, which is very interesting. That the Fool in his idealistic nature and indeed foolish nature, if they come together, then I think the meaning's quite clear. It's like you need to be a little more grounded. You need to sort out your head. Yeah, focus a little bit. Here is the Four of Swords. Now, if these two come up together, I think they actually complement each other. I think one of the interpretations, and of course it means on the entire spread, and it means on the person you're reading for, you may be reading for yourself, but if these two come up together, I would suggest it would say, okay, you've allowed yourself the time to rest and maybe dream a little bit. Yeah, because we all need to exercise our imagination in a lot of ways, because if we didn't, then nobody would get anywhere, really, would they? If you can imagine, if, you know, the pioneers of science, pioneers of art, they need to be able to dream a little bit before you can actually make those sort of jumps, before you can actually achieve anything. I don't know if that makes sense to me. Here's the Two of Wands. I want to rule the world. Don't be silly. Here's the Magician. I'm the Magician. Now, I love the Magician. I'm a big fan of the Magician. I want to be the Magician. However, he does have that dark side, doesn't he? Oh, look, here's the Magician, but be careful. He may be trying to trickster you. Victory. Don't be silly. Now, here's an interesting one. I've already talked about the associations with debauchery and that link with addictions and mind-altering substances. If the Devil and the Seven of Cups come up, then yeah, you got to be thinking, what is it that I'm doing that I shouldn't be? How can I unchain myself from I'm going to say addiction. I'm going to keep saying it because I think that's an association, and I think everybody at some point in their life gets carried away with certain things. I know I have, and I think the Seven of Cups is here to say, oi, stop it, focus. You need to unchain yourself from all those things that are bad for you. So yeah, I would suggest going through the deck and see what happens. Here's the Queen of Swords. The Queen of Swords is the no-nonsense lady. We all need a bit of Queen of Swords here and there. So I imagine if these two cards came up, she's saying, look, sort out your life. Sort out your head. Stop it. And you can do it. Another good association, I would imagine, is, hey, let's celebrate and let's dream about the future. Feel free to go through the deck and just see if you can make those links. And if you're really brave, you can try and do it with 3 cards. Celebrate, yay, dream, oh no. Yeah, you can have some fun with it. I don't think I've really scratched the surface of what the Seven of Cups really means. For me, it's not a great card to get. I don't enjoy this coming up because it's a warning in a lot of ways, I think. Again, I've already mentioned the fact that we should always be dreaming, we should always be imagining, because if we don't, then we're just going to get into horrible routines and not actually get anywhere with our lives. Another meditation I'd like to do on the Seven of Cups, and this is really informed by the After Tarot. Here's the After Tarot here. For those of you unaware of the After Tarot, it shows you the next moment, and here we definitely have a guy here, and you can see that the choices that he's made. He wants the wealth, and yet that snake has kind of got him a little bit. So another thing I like to do is, which one would you choose? Which of these dreams or illusions are you most attracted to? I think for myself, it's probably the wealth. I could do with buying a house. It's something I'm thinking about at the moment, looking for that dream home. But again, that may just very well be an illusion. So yeah, think about what you would go for, and think about the things that in your life that you should probably either let go or sort of respect that they are dreams. The Seven of Cups, I think, informs us that we should be trying to go for a bit of reality here and there. This is kind of a downbeat video. I'm sorry about that. Hey, Seven of Cups. Hopes and dreams, yay. Okay, I think I'm going to lay it aside there. Again, yeah, I just get this sense that I've only really sort of scratched the surface of what the Seven of Cups really means. But I don't really know what else to say. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. I hope I've helped. I hope I've given you something to think about, and I've shown you a lot of nice pictures. But in the meantime, this is the Hidden Hermit. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day.